Hi everyone, I'm Corbin and welcome to this episode in my Anthurium FAQ Series. So in this video, I'm going to try and answer the question, how much water does your Anthurium need? I did do a previous video explaining how to water your Anthurium, but I think in this video we are going to look at the frequency as well as the amount. So before I start, I just want to say that this is a bit of a loaded question because watering will depend greatly on the variables in your specific growing conditions. So if I use myself as an example, I have an east-facing apartment. All the windows is face east, so that's morning sun, and in summer it's morning to afternoon sun, mid-afternoon, about 1 o'clock, and then the sun is gone. Now, that does mean though that the apartment has a tendency to really heat up. So that's just point number one, the temperature. As I mentioned, it is an east-facing apartment, so there is a lot of light also coming into the apartment, especially in the earliest part of the day. And what was my third thing? Okay, let's first talk about those two things. So, in higher temperatures, plants tend to transpire more, meaning that they take up moisture from the soil to replace the water that's being lost through their leaves. This is also the case in higher light situations because the plant is now photosynthesizing more and ergo uses more water from the media. So on those two things, I water my plants, or my Anthurium specifically, about once a week. So that's just point number one. Now we need to talk about pots and pot size because that's also something that's going to influence the frequency of how much you water your Anthurium. So this plant is in the nursery pot. It still comes in. You can see this is quite a small pot for this plant. This is what you normally buy these plants in. I would not say that this plant is pot bound yet, but it's quickly going on the way to becoming pot bound. But as you can see, smaller pots, and this plant would also have grown into a fair amount of the growing medium in this pot. So now that tells you that there's not a lot of moisture holding capacity left in the growing media. So just from a practical point of view, there's not a lot of growing media in here to start with. So those are also things that will affect how quickly water is lost from this growing media. Now the other thing to consider is the pot. Now this is a plastic pot, and as I've said many times on my channel, plastic pots are great because they don't allow evaporation through the sides of the pot, only through the top. Now, if this plant was planted in a clay terracotta pot, it would be a whole different story because clay is a porous material. It also has the effect of wicking water away from the soil. So in a clay pot, you'll also have a drying through the sides of the pots. Because if you've ever planted plants in a terracotta pot, you'll always notice when you water your plants, the pot becomes like darker at the sides, and that's the pot absorbing water. So those are just the things to think about. So If you, for example, live in, perhaps you have an apartment that does not get any direct sunlight, it would probably mean that your temperatures are cooler. It might mean that your plant is not photosynthesizing as much. So your plant might not need as much water. So that's something, you know, to consider. It might also depend on your climate. I live in a very hot climate, so and especially in this apartment, there's not that much difference between my summer and winter temperatures because of the direction the apartment has. But if I was maybe living in Europe and had colder winters with shorter day lengths, because that's also important to consider, because in a shorter day length also your plant would not photosynthesize as much because there just wouldn't be the same amount of hours in the day as in summer. So that's all something to think about. And also in the winter, if you're in colder climate, in like the northern hemisphere, you are most probably going to have heating in your house, you know, underfloor heating, central heating, which is going to also push up the temperature. So don't fall into the trap of thinking that because it's cold outside, your plants might not require any water. You know, it's the inside temperatures that have an effect on your plant. Now we can talk about the amount. So if I'm going to water this plant in the spot, I'm going to apply water across the top of the soil until, you know, it's like after a while you get a feeling for that. You apply water just a little bit and that's it. And then afterwards I will pull the plant out and empty out any water that has collected in the bottom. Alternatively, of course, I can take my plant out of this cover pot and place it in the sink, open the tap, allow the water to run through. Now, both of these have their merits. The first one, of course, if you are in a hurry and you don't have a lot of time, it's nice and easy to just give a little bit of water and there you go. The risk, of course, with that is that you can forget to empty out the pot and you can have water collecting in the bottom of the pot, which would influence your plant's roots, which could lead to root rot. Now, the second option, to rinse your plant, has the benefit that you are then sure that your plant was given a nice, thorough watering. And if you leave it on the side of the sink, you know that your plant, that all the water has run off, and you can place your plant back in its position at a later time. So those are the two things to consider. So I hope that you found this video helpful. If you liked this video, just give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss any of the future videos in this series. I will see you in the next video. Bye.